Hi there, Amir here, designer of Unvention. So today I'm going to show you how the Unvention solo project plays. This is the solo mode or solo mini campaign of the game, which is quite different from the normal mode of the game. As you can see, I have two sheets printed here, which is used for playing the solo mode. If you're familiar with the multiplayer mode from the Kickstarter page, you would know that on the multiplayer mode you only have a single sheet of paper for each player, but for the solo mode we have actually 4 sheets of paper, 3 of these daily sheets and one of this one, which is the Unvention sheet. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's quickly talk about what Unvention is if you're new to the explanation of the game. Unvention is a game about an inventor going to their workshop through a weekend to work on a project, to work on a new invention idea. The game is a roll and write game, and these sheets of paper are provided so you can print, and like me here, you can laminate them so you will be able to reuse them, or you can just use pens or pencils if you don't laminate them. For the solo campaign, you would need a single invention sheet, which captures the progress of your inventions throughout the 3 days of the weekend, and you would need one daily sheet for each day of the weekend. So for a full weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you would need 3 different sheets. One interesting thing about the solo mini campaign is that you won't need to play the entire game in one sitting. You can play it one day at a time. So you can play on your daily sheet and track your progress on the invention sheet, and once the day is over, you can wipe this daily sheet off or use the next sheet that you have printed, and you can just put the game down, go about your day, and come back to it at a later time and continue the game. After the 3 days, the game ends, and if you score based on how you score, you get an achievement and a level of achievement. The solo campaign also comes with a difficulty curve. So you can play the entire campaign on easy, medium, or hard, which we'll see how it will affect the gameplay. Okay, how does the game play? Let me talk to you about the 3 main concepts of the game. We have here the 4 workshops that the player works within in their on the weekend. We have 4 different workshops: hydraulic, magnetic, electrical, and mechanical workshops. In each of these workshops, you see there are a number of circles. These circles represent parts, which you will, throughout the game, gather as such. These would be parts that I have. Continuing on the game, you will be getting wrenches, which I will talk about later, how you get wrenches, and you pay wrenches to make mechanisms, and these would be parts that are adjacent to each other that you choose to connect to one another, and this would be a mechanical mechanism. This mechanism has a shape which is sort of a polyomino. If I go to my invention sheet, you can see that we have a number of boxes. Each of these represents an invention, and each invention has a pattern here. I'm going to use this invention in my example, and after I have built this mechanism, I would draw its shape in the invention that I want, and that would be me using this mechanism in that invention in the hopes to complete that invention. This example was a really bad one, so that's not a good way of using this shape, but you get the idea. uh, parts, which are circles, mechanisms, and then inventions on your invention sheet. So let's talk about the invention sheet for a second. Here we have a tech tree of sorts. On the very left are inventions, are these 5 inventions that are available to the player from the very beginning of the game. By completing these inventions, let's say I have completed this invention as such, I will draw a shape around it to show that it has completed. Once an invention completes, it fills in arrows that go outwards from that invention. That means that this invention has now unlocked other inventions for me to work on. As you can see, this works as a tick tree of sorts. You start from the very left, and based on the path that you progress, you can create more advanced inventions. And throughout the weekend, you can work towards one of these 5 very large scoring inventions on the right, if you so choose. So that's how generally speaking, the invention sheet works. Let's talk about the flow of the game. So this is a roll on, right? Meaning we have to roll at some point. Each round of the game is played following these steps. First off, you roll the dice. Once you roll, you group the dice into groups of equals and unequals. So here I have 2 groups of equals and unequals. Let me re-roll to have another example. Oops, I messed that up, but let's imagine that was the original roll. Here's another roll. I have a group of unequals and a group of equals. It is possible that I get 3 groups if this hasn't happened, but let's imagine that I have rolled 2 4s and 2 3s and 1 6. That would be equals 1 group, and a third group. After the dice are rolled, the player chooses, let's go back to another example. These are my 2 groups. And once I have rolled my 2 groups, I proceed to choose one of these groups for journaling and another group for workshopping. Workshopping means that I choose one of my 4 workshops, and let's say I've chosen this group for workshopping. I will choose one of these 4 workshops and then circle the parts with these values in that workshop. Let's say I am choosing the electrical workshop, so I will get a 1, a 5, and a 6. That would be workshopping. Journaling, on the other hand, happens on these 3 tables here. You can see each journal is a grid of 4 by 4, and these function very similarly to the classic game of Sudoku, meaning that you would write numbers in these cells, for example, as such, and I'm using this example to write the 2 trees that I have in this journal. And the rule that I have to follow is that in each column or row or quadrant, each number can appear only once. So since I have a 3 here, in these rows or columns, I cannot write another 3, and this space I cannot write another 3 because it's the same quadrant. It's also in the same row as this other 3 that I have. So for many reasons, I cannot write another 3 there. So let me just wipe everything off. But this is a legal writing because these 2 trees do not share quadrants, rows, or columns. So that would be the main parts of each round. Every round this happens, and unless you are building mechanisms, you proceed to the next round. Let's say it's a few rounds down the line, and I have managed to fill in my journals with a bunch of numbers. Let's say this is my how I filled my journals. I will write some numbers in the other journals as well to denote that you don't need to start with one journal and complete that and then go to the next one. There's no order. You can, on each journaling turn, you can choose one of these journals to write in. Okay, so you can see there are a number of wrench icons beside the rows and columns of these journals, meaning that if I complete a row, I will get a wrench. I mark that off, and in the daily track that I have down here, I will circle the next available wrench. It starts from here and goes down this line as such. And here I have another wrench, so I mark that off or circle that wrench. These wrenches are the main resource of the game, meaning that once I have gathered a bunch of parts, when I want to make a new mechanism, I have to pay wrenches. The cost of creating a mechanism is 2 wrenches, so I would just cross off the 2 wrenches that I have, and for instance, I can create this mechanism. It doesn't matter what shape the mechanism is or how many parts it has, the cost is always 2 wrenches. Once I've created this mechanism, now we go to the invention sheet. I will choose one of the inventions that is available to me. In this example, this invention is available, this one, this one, this one as the very first initial inventions. But because I have created this invention in a previous round, also these 2 inventions are available to me. So I can go ahead and take this shape and draw it in any invention that I want. So I will go ahead and draw it in this one. Let's say that was the invention that I'm working on. You can see that there are 2 arrows pointing to this invention. As long as I have at least 1 arrow pointing to that invention completely filled, that means that this invention is unlocked for me. So you don't need to have all the arrows filled in. As long as you have 1, that is unlocked. Another thing is that this invention that I just created is a mechanical one. So I will go ahead here and mark off the mechanical icon just below this invention. This will become important for scoring later on. Okay, what are these inventions? We already know that inventions let you create other inventions, but what is the point there? The point is, on these inventions, you can see on the side, we have each invention has a unique set of abilities or effects or things like that. Some might give you scoring opportunities at the end of the day with this sun icon. Some might give you an effect that happens at the time of finishing off that invention. Some might give you passive abilities, which, for example, in this one, if I finish off this invention, this gets me a discount of 1 wrench whenever I want to create another whenever I want to create a hydraulic mechanism. And this, if I create this invention, I will get this discount throughout the entire game from this point on. So if I unlock this, or if I build this invention in day 1, I get that discount throughout all 3 days. We have effects that cost a wrench to be triggered. For example, here I can pay a wrench to re-roll any number of dice that I want. And lastly, we have these scoring inventions. These are marked with this flag icon, which points to the end of the game, end of the 3rd day of the game. Before jumping into how these scoring inventions might work, I need to talk about ideas, which are these light bulb icons that you see here. Going back to my workshop sheet, you can see we have these idea icons spread out through different workshops. That means that if I create a mechanism that has an idea within it, I have now captured this idea with my mechanism. The mechanism that you have created, thematically speaking, is innovative, has an idea in a sense. That idea, I do 2 things with. So first off, let's say I'm using this mechanism that I created in which invention? Would that make sense? Let's say this is the invention that I am making. Let's go through the process. This is a magnetic one, and it has an idea within it. So I will fill in the cell containing an idea. I should later on in the game be able to differentiate between a mechanism that doesn't have an idea or one that includes an idea. And then using this idea, you can see we have these idea icons across the invention sheet. You can go ahead and mark off one of the ideas anywhere on the sheet. So I can, since I'm working on this path, I can go ahead and mark this idea, which does half of the job of unlocking this. So to unlock this invention, I should have marked off the idea and have created this one. So this helps me go towards that. I could have alternatively marked this one off. It doesn't matter which one you mark. I could have even marked off something that is not in this location at all. I could have gone up to this invention and marked off, circled that idea. It doesn't matter. So one use of ideas we've already talked about, and that is unlocking different steps within this path. The other use of ideas is the scoring criteria that we have at the end of the game. For instance, let's look at this invention here. First off, we have a instant effect. Whenever you create this invention, you get 2 points for any large mechanism that you have, which is which has 5 or more parts. So you look at the entire invention sheet and count how many large mechanisms you have. And secondly, if I have this invention built, I will score at the end of the game this scoring criteria. So let's say I have already circled 3 of these ideas, and these will act as multipliers. So whatever the criteria is, I will count that and write the number here, times this multiplier will be the scoring of this invention. For instance, here, this one says complete inventions with 2 mechanisms. So I will go and see how many of my complete inventions are completed using exactly 2 mechanisms. So this is one invention. If this was the end status of the game, that would be 1 times 3, that's 3. That is definitely not a good scoring invention, but here in my example, my sheet is basically empty. Okay, let's quickly talk about days and difficulties. So during setup for each day, which yes, we have setup for each day, we go through these steps that are written up here. These are basic setup stuff. I'm not going to go through all of them in this video, but I am going to talk about daily challenges. So based on the difficulty that you have chosen, each day starts with 1 or more daily challenges. For instance, if you start the game on the medium difficulty, based on which day you're on, you might need to roll a die to determine the challenge of that day. So let's say this is Friday and I'm playing on medium, so I will roll 1 die, that's 2, and I will get this daily challenge for the entirety of this day. For example, the one that I rolled is clumsy, which means that in the daily setup, the first step of daily setup, which is this one, I will lose a whole bunch of parts. I haven't explained how these work, so this example does not make sense. Let's talk about that. At the beginning of each day, you will go through a process of removing some of these parts from your workshop. So let's imagine that we are going back to the very setup of the day. And let's say I need to go through the first step, which is removing 2 parts from random workshops. To do that, I've created an online tool which helps you do that quickly. There is a way of achieving the same thing by rolling dice, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go and use that online tool. Okay, here's the online tool that I was talking about. This is nothing fancy. This is just a website available to everyone, which is called Wheel of Names. It's a pretty cool website. You can create a wheel that with different options, and I've created one for Unvention, including all these numbers and workshops. You just tap here, and it will spin the wheel for you and choose one of these combinations at random. Okay, so going back to the first step, you have to remove two sets of parts from a workshop. So I have spinned 5 for hydraulic. So I will go ahead and mark off all parts, all 5 parts from the hydraulic workshop. So you have to do this one more time to finish the setup. Spins, makes a sound. With my luck, it is removing all 6s from the same workshop as well. So that is the first step of setup. Messing up with my camera here, but bear with me. Okay, so going back to the daily challenges, the one that I wrote says that because today I'm clumsy, I have to repeat step 1 of setup again, meaning that I have to remove 2 other parts from my workshop. So I go back to this one and spin it again, which removes 4s from the electric workshop. And lastly, this removes 1s from the mechanical workshops. So as you can see, it's not great to be clumsy. So these challenges change the setup state of the game each day within a single campaign. And based on the difficulty of the game, you may have more challenges on different days. For example, in medium, in the last day you have 2 challenges, and in the hard mode you roll for 1 challenge for day 1, you roll for another challenge for day 2, but you keep the day 1. So you have, in your second day you have 2 challenges, and this continues, and in your third day you have 3 active challenges at the same time. And these are as their name suggests, challenges that makes the game or scoring or different parts a bit more challenging throughout that day, creating a variable aspect to each time you play the game or each day of the game that you play within a campaign. I'm not going to go through all the details of the rules and how each individual invention works out, but I will talk about ending each day. So how does that work? So you remember when we filled out these journals, we would get wrenches, right? Based on completing rows and columns of these journals. Imagine that I have written numbers here. And you gradually circle wrenches here, and at some point you will circle this wrench with a dice numbered 6 just below it. If you don't see that, there is a dice showing the number 6 just beside this wrench. Whenever I circle this one, I have to roll a die, and it may indicate the end of that day. So if I roll a 6 or higher, which is not possible, but so only a 6, that will end the game. So 1 in 6 chance to end the game, end the day right there. I'll roll. This is a 4. The day has not finished. So I will continue play. I will go here, and whenever I go get to this wrench, this now shows a 5. I think you're getting the idea. You roll, if you roll a 5 or higher, so with my chance, I have rolled a 5, so this indicates the end of this day. So the duration of these 3 days that you play are not the same. You might get to play the day until the very end, but from the half point onwards, there is a chance that the day might end. As you can see, the numbers go lower as you proceed, meaning that I should have drawn these ones as well, because you have to go top to bottom and left to right. And let's say if you go here, this ends the day with a 3, these are with a 2, and if you manage not to roll any of those numbers, but when circling this last one, that will trigger the end of the day anyways. So this is the longest, this would be the basically the longest a day can get. Each day of the game is roughly played in 20 minutes, so the entire mini campaign will be played over an hour, and I would highly recommend playing that in more than one session. So once a day is over, you can just put the game away and come back to it, because it's very fun to go back to your inventions, see what you were planning. We have an empty space here for you to write notes about the different abilities and discounts and scoring opportunities that you have. So coming back to that and reading your own notes to find where within the project you were is a very fun part of the solo mode. All right, that is Unvention solo project.